Cardiovascular diseases are the main problem in our country. And the most important factor that affects them is, of course, our way of life. And first of all, our nutrition. And there are products that cause enormous harm to our heart. But at the same time, there are products that heal our heart and are literally a salvation for it. So in this video I have put together just such a selection. In the beginning, we will talk about harmful, then we will talk about useful. Watch the video to the end, it will be very interesting. So let's go. By the way, friends, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and click on the bell too, do not miss my new products. So, the group of products that are harmful to our heart, under the very first number, is confectionery. And this will include sweets, sweet chocolates, various cakes, cupcakes, and so on. Firstly, all of these confectionery products contain shock doses of sugar. And it is well known that high blood sugar is a factor in the development of atherosclerosis, and as a result, the risk of coronary heart disease. The very situation when the coronary artery is clogged with cholesterol, which can subsequently cause a catastrophe. Another problem with confectionery products besides sugar is, of course, trans fats. In many countries, people struggle with fats. Somewhere they are trying to ban them, but it doesn't really work out. Some manufacturers voluntarily refuse them in order to openly declare it, but for example in Russia, the situation with trans fats is still bad and depressing. And do not think at all that if you buy expensive high-quality imported chocolate, then it means there will be no trans fats. There was a famous story where a very respected, well-advertised Swiss chocolate manufacturer, I won't name the company, was fined precisely for selling chocolate according to one recipe in Switzerland. And in Russia it was sent according to a much more expensive version, let's say. That is, absolutely everyone can add cheap trans fats. And it has been proven many times that trans fats are an absolute evil, that they cause atherosclerosis, that they are harmful to blood vessels, and of course to the heart, and provoke cardiovascular catastrophes. Let's move on. The next item is a sweet soda. But if you just need to inject sugar, then a sweet soda is perhaps the ideal candidate for this. Sweet soda is essentially a syrup, so high sugar content. But when we drink, it's nice to drink. Why don't we get sick of too much sugar? After all, when we scent too much, for example tea, we don't want to drink it, right? We feel that it is too sweet and unpleasant, and in fact, there is much more sugar in soda than in tea, which we have sweetened. So why do we like soda? The answer is the acidity regulator. Because citric acid is added artificially to soda in addition to regulate acidity, compensate for excessive feelings of sweetness. So that we do not feel that it is too sweet, but subconsciously our brain reads this volume of glucose, and gets hooked on it, and then asks for more. So, perhaps among all the products that cause the maximum jump in blood sugar levels, probably sweet soda will be the champion. Let's move on. The next item is sausage products and other processed meat. I once said on my channel that it is always much better to prefer real fresh meat to any processed meat and sausage products in ham and so on. So, in various sausage products, as a rule, there are lethal doses of salt. They don't feel sorry for her there. And with salt, a balance is needed. If we don't use salt at all, it's not healthy, and too much salt is even worse. Experts have determined the optimal dosage of salt from 2 to 5 grams per day. So, if we eat a few pieces of sausage, as a rule, we provide ourselves with a daily dose of sodium. And this means that any other food that we eat during the day will already contribute to an overdose of sodium. And excessive sodium intake directly affects our potassium-sodium balance, provokes fluid retention, and increases blood pressure. Blood pressure drags a whole tangle of problems behind it. Of course, this is the risk of a heart attack, stroke. Also, blood pressure has such an effect that all organs of our body suffer. In general, summing up under this block, we can say that the most harmful products are those that contain a large amount of sugar, a large amount of trans fats, and a large amount of salt. And now let's talk about those foods that are good for our heart, and which, on the contrary, need to be included in your diet, if you haven't included them yet. And in the first place here is the sea fish. And preferably its fatty varieties. Salmon, for example, will be especially useful. And first of all, thanks to the content of omega-3, it has been proven many times that those people who consume large amounts of fatty fish during their lifetime have a much lower risk of developing myocardial infarction and generally live longer. Of course, omega-3 can be consumed from other sources, including in the form of additives, but sea fatty fish is the most natural and useful way to get it. An adult is recommended to consume at least 2 servings of marine fatty fish per week. The serving size is about 120 grams. And of course, in addition to omega-3, there will be many other useful components in sea fish. Let's move on. The next useful product is nuts. And first of all, it is the walnut that comes here. Walnuts are better than all other nuts precisely because the omega-3 content in it is the most optimal. Generally speaking, when we hear about omega, we need to understand the following. There are omega-3, omega-6 and omega-9. Omega-9 is not of particular interest to us. We need to pay attention to omega-3 and omega-6 in the product. So, omega-3 is useful, but omega-6 is just not useful. We cannot completely exclude omega-6 because it is found in almost all vegetable fats. But what you need to do is look for the omega-3 omega-6 ratio. The optimal ratio is 1 to 4. That is, for every gram of omega-3, no more than 4 grams of omega-6. But for the average person who eats just intuitively, as it turns out, this ratio is likely to be about 1 to 10. And this is not very healthy. So, if we take for example an avocado, which everyone praises so much, then it has a ratio of omega-3. Omega-6 1 to 9. It's not great. Although some sunflower oil is even worse, there is 1 to 300. So, if we take a walnut, then it has a ratio of omega-3, omega-6 1 to 4. The most optimal of all nuts. It is better than in hazelnuts, almonds, cashews and so on. The best thing about walnuts. Moreover, it contains a lot of vitamin E, a useful antioxidant that is very good for the heart. And there have been studies that have shown that regular consumption of walnuts can reduce the risk of heart attack by 30 to 50%. Let's move on. The next item is broccoli. Broccoli, I must say, is probably one of the most useful vegetables that we only have on the shelves. And it certainly needs to be included in our diet, well, almost on a daily basis. There is a huge amount of vitamins, minerals, but what exactly interests us in this video is a substance like sulforaphane. And it, in turn, will reduce the formation of atherosclerotic dances. Broccoli also has a lot of fiber. This is another point that should be mentioned separately. Fiber helps a lot to reduce the risk of atherosclerosis, that is, figuratively speaking, it cleanses our blood vessels. Well, figuratively. Fiber improves our cholesterol profile very much, which is extremely useful for our cardiovascular system. Let's move on. The next item is garlic. Garlic also reduces the risk of atherosclerosis. In addition, garlic contains a huge number of other extremely useful elements, 70 of them are known to science in total, which have a beneficial effect, an antioxidant effect. Garlic also helps to thin the blood and reduce its viscosity, which is also extremely important for the heart. And it was also noticed that with regular use of garlic, blood pressure decreases. By the way, friends, and write in the comments, and which of these products do you eat? Or maybe you can still add some useful types of food that are necessary in our diet. Share it in the comments, it will be interesting. And now I highly recommend you to watch my other video, where I talk about the 7 habits that ruin our heart. These are habits from our way of life. And this video will help you very much, because it will complement what I have been talking about here, and you will have a complete picture. A link to the video you have just appeared on the screen, as well as a link I left in the description, and pinned it in the top comment. Be sure to take a look. And if you like this video, then like and subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you on that very video. About 7 bad habits for the heart. See you later.